What's good, y'all? It's Rickey, the co-creator Burton, and we're here with the Power of Prison podcast. Our host, Zach Goku, the guy, and we're gonna be answering some of y'all questions. You know, a lot of people want to know what goes on in there, what goes on after uh, prison, life outside of prison, after prison. So we're gonna answer those questions tonight about success. Everything is about success tonight. Let's go.
All right, once again, I always got to tell y'all like, share, subscribe to the channel,
Like, share, and subscribe.
Power Prison Podcast. We everywhere right now. All right, first question. Everybody always asks this question every single time. What was it like being locked up for 10 years in federal penitentiary?
Well, being locked up for 10 years in the federal penitentiary was, it wasn't stressful as far as being inside, but it was stressful as far as I wanted to do things. There were certain things, plans, ideas I wanted to execute that I couldn't do that because I had to stay inside of there. So it was actually like I was caged in, but my mind wasn't, but my body was. So it was frustrating in that aspect. But other than that, like being locked up for 10 years, it actually was more of a blessing than a curse.
So, how did you deal with that mentally, knowing that you was going to be locked up for 120 months?
At first, it was hard. So dealing with it mentally, knowing in the beginning that I was going to be locked up for 120 months, which translates to 10 years. Um, it was hard at first because that's a long time. So I got locked up in 2004. So when you think about 2004, and I say to myself, oh, I'm going to be here till 2014, that's a long time mentally to think about. So I had to challenge myself for those 10 years and channel my energy for positive, for growth, for development. So like it was almost like you like one thing about prison, right? It'll either make you or break you, right? So you got to figure it out. You got to figure out whether I'm gonna let this thing make me or I'm gonna let it break me, right? So me, I chose to let it make me. So that's why I say it was more of a blessing than a curse because I used that time to better myself, to make sure that I came out 100 times stronger and better than I was when I went in.
Hmm. Were there like hardships that you experienced when you first went in?
Hardships that I experienced when I first went in. Yeah. There were a lot of hardships, but like I just said, like either you're gonna let it make you or you're gonna let it break you. So I chose to let it make me. So the hardships, I dealt with them.
How did you
Whatever.
conquer them? Like, what did you do to get your mind off of it? Like, what was hard when you first went in that like you was like really agitated about?
What was hard when I first went in was like basically like having people tell me what to do and having to do what they say. So that was hard at first because I'm a person that I tell people what to do. So that was hard. Like having to live there and basically like move according to their beat. That was hard for me at
So the
first.
control.
Yeah, the control factor. The control factor, definitely. It was very, very hard for me at first.
What did you do to like subside that?
What did I do? I had to, I mean, like, I had to conform as far as that's concerned, you know, like, because, or else I was just going to keep being in the hole, keep being in, Silence of the Lambs, or keep, I didn't want to be one of those inmates known as a troublemaker because I wasn't there for that. I was there to get better. So I figured, so since I'm here, I might as well study, read, learn, educate myself. So when I come out, I could be a million times better than I was when I came in.
Okay. Being away from your family and your loved ones, I know that's tough because I was in the military. So how did you deal with that?
Well, it was tough being away from my daughters, my mom, my sister, um, and a few others. But at the same time, I knew where I was. Where I was a lot of the places I were so dangerous that I didn't have time to really think about the outside world. I had to focus on me and making sure I stay alive.
That's deep, man. Um, so you're a big thinker. I know that for sure. How was it being in such like a dangerous environment where people usually fight with knives or weapons that's made up? How was it for you? Like, how did you transition? Because you weren't really that kind of a person when I knew you.
Well, transition into a world where everything is basically ended or concluded by violence or killings, stabbings. You learn quick. You learn quick. Either you learn quick, or either you're the predator or you're prey. You know. So I learned quick or early that in those situations I rather be a predator as opposed to prey, because I always told myself since day one, no matter what happens, I'm coming home to my mother. She wants me to come home 10 years from now. I'm coming home 10 years from now. But it was more so about being successful too. So once I changed my mindset and my thought process, it was more so about being successful and doing the things necessary to ensure that that happens.
Okay. Um, I see in a lot of videos, and you just mentioned a minute ago that you wanted to make it home 100 times better. What were some of the things that you did to ensure that that was going to happen?
So I did a lot to ensure that I came home 100 times better. I read a lot of books, and people don't understand the gravity, the magnitude, the capacity that reading books can have on one's life. So I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of exercising because, like, it's only three facets to a human being. So we have the mental, the spiritual, and the physical. That's it. It's nothing else. So my thing was I learned to address all three facets equally as well. So I work out. That means I got to read. And spiritually, a lot of people pray. A lot of people meditate, and other people do other things. So you have to address all three facets, and that's basically what I did that carried me throughout. So I set my sights on building all three facets to the point where I'm a supreme being, or on my way to being a supreme being.
What were some of the books that you read that you that's kind of like impactful when you were inside?
Yeah, I read a couple of books. Well, a lot of books, because I read about 3, 4 books a week, like real books, and I did that for my whole time there. Um, The Secret. I love this book called The Secret. The Secret is a beautiful book. It's about another book that I reference both of them, um, as far as together, called The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. Um, 50 Cent, he talks about that book a lot. But The Art of Seduction is basically a reference to this book that I love. And I always promote this book, and I always tell people to read this book, The Secret. It's called The Secret, and it's about the mind. So people hear books like The Secret and The Art of Seduction, and I've seen a lot of people think that The Art of Seduction is about sex. And when I see that, I smile, especially if the person is young. If they're older, I think this guy needs to be schooled, you know. But it's all about the mind. So the art of seduction and the secret actually is teaching you how strong your mind really is, how strong the human mind, the power, the energy that is around us really is, right? And the art of seduction is teaching you about manipulating the mind. So seduction, seduce. The word seduce only means to manipulate one's mind. That's it. When I'm seducing you, I'm manipulating your mind, right? So the art of seduction. So what it's teaching you how to do is manipulate people.
Mm.
So those are the type of books I read. Why? Because I've come to find out that those are the type of books that the billionaires read, or the many or most successful people in the world read. I read those type of books. And that's what kept me growing and developing every day throughout my 10 years.
All right. So one more question with that. You said you was doing exercises. Your exercises from outside going to inside. What was the difference with you for you personally? Like, were you doing like more like pull-ups or something?
Well, no, as far as my exercises from outside to inside, I didn't work out outside.
Mm.
I didn't. So when I got locked up, that was all brand new to me. Even though I was athletic, I played basketball my whole life, played basketball in high school, college, stuff like that. Um, as far as the streets, once I stated out, started out dealing with the streets, I didn't work out anymore. So once I got locked up and I started working out, that was all basically brand new territory to me.
Okay. So when you transitioned, was it like hard considering the environment that you were from going into what you were in now?
I'm not gonna say it was hard. I'm gonna say the environment that I was from um, got me ready and schooled me for everything that I went through moving forward.
Right.
Because our environment, you're from where I'm from, so our environment is very rough, very tough, very scary at times. But for us, it's normal. For us, it's second nature. You know, for us, this is what we do. So that it actually like schooled me and built me up and prepared me for those moments.
Okay. Basically, coming out of prison with the high vibration than what you had when you initially got when you was locked up. Was that an easy feat for you?
No, But at the same time, I've been locked up so long that I had enough time to hone those skills or hone those new attributes or characteristics, you know? Um, Maybe if I had done 2 or 3 years, like my mother says, those things wouldn't have kicked in. But being that I had so much time, 10 years, year after year after year, and I'm learning and I'm picking up new things and I'm educating myself and I'm re educating myself, um, you kind of just pick those things up naturally, the things that you're supposed to have as a mature, successful adult.
So, do you think this is why the recidivism rate is so high between brothers and sisters that's going in and out of prison?
Well, the recidivism rate is so high because uh, I don't think everybody has a lifeline. So a lot of guys that come out of prison, the ones who have a lifeline and a stable family and a sturdy family and a village around them, they usually don't go back, you know. But without certain families and organizations like a Second Youth Foundation, um, which is the number one reentry program in New York City right now. To me, in the world. But when you have programs like that, you're good. And when you have a village around you and family and friends that support you, but the reality of things is that most guys coming out of prison, most females coming out of prison don't have that. So that's why the recidivism rate is so high because like when you come out, it's like as soon as you come out, everybody wants money. Everything is about money. And 9 times out of 10, the guys that's coming out, they don't have money. So what do? Typically, they resort back to what they know, no matter how long they've been locked up, because they don't have anything on anybody. But they're doing this. The funny thing is, they're doing this all in the name of making it, of being successful, right? And a lot of people don't know that. So that's what makes a Second Youth Foundation so powerful, because like guys that are coming out of prison get to see that you can make it, and they get to see that I don't have to fail because I have this big, super amazing village behind me, you know? And the recidivism rate is so high because a lot of people don't have that village behind them. And that's just what it is.
All right. So, answer this for me in your honest opinion. Does prison really rehabilitate inmates?
Well, as far as prison, no. Prison doesn't rehabilitate inmates. Um, it's the person. So what you have to do is like what I did when I went in. I utilized the little um, um, trades and courses and stuff like that that the prison had. But the prison is set up for you to fail. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. Prison is set up for you to fail, but you have to be strong enough and resilient enough and have the mental fortitude to keep pushing and figure it out. And every day wake up wanting more, you know, because there are a lot of guys in there and that wake up wanting less or wake up stagnant, wake up complacent, and you can fall victim to that. It is on you to figure out everything that jail has inside of those walls that can benefit you. So as far as prison being rehabilitative or rehabilitate, what's the word,
Rehabilitative.
rehabilitative, no, it's not. It's definitely not. So when I say the power of prison, The power of prison comes from the things you utilize within that prison and use it to better yourself. Because the prison itself, as an institution, it doesn't rehabilitate. It doesn't do that. It doesn't help us. It doesn't. It just puts things there, and if you use it or if you decide to utilize it, then it's on you.
So basically, you're saying that people that's formerly incarcerated that came on became successful and had nothing to do with the prison system directly. Basically, that's what you're saying, right?
Right. So a lot of the guys and females that have come out of prison and have been super successful or even vaguely successful, it has nothing to do with the prison that they came from, the institution that they were housed at. It has everything to do with them and what they decide to want, what they decided to want for themselves and to do for themselves. It was about their drive and their ambition. It had nothing at all to do with the prison or the institution that they were housed at.
Okay. All right. Since you mentioned that, let's move forward a little bit. You come home. You're home for like 6 months after the release. How did you transition from that? Because you was locked up for 10 years. You was walking around with spit guards and shit. Like, how did you transition coming home and shit?
It took a while. It took a while because it was almost like they tell you to they put you in there for 10 years, and then after 10 years, after being in such an aggressive, vicious, serious environment, they kick you out and tell you to be normal. And that's hard. That's hard for a lot of people to do. After 10, 15, 20 years of being aggressive, being serious, being tenacious, being mean for some, and then they kick you out and tell you to be normal. That'll mess a lot of people up, bro. That'll mess a lot of people up because a lot of guys can't figure it out, especially not that fast. You go from 20 years of that to go outside. You're released, you know? So a lot of people take time to figure it out. Some figure it out, and a lot of people don't.
Was there like a period for you where you had to like transition a little bit?
Yeah, it took me about 3 years.
3 years?
It took me about 3 years after I got out because I was kind of stuck, you know, and I guess they call that PTSD. I was kind of stuck. I was kind of stuck as far as I was still in that mindset of being serious and everything having to be dealt with physically. But when I got out here, I realized that that's not reality, at least not out here. That's not reality. Everything is not dealt with physically as it is in there.
Okay. All right. So determination played a huge role in most of your success. I can guess that, right? You had to stay on like a straight laser focus, basically.
Right, right. Yeah. I was determined to win. I was determined to make it. Um, I was determined not to fail. I was determined to be super successful. Um, I was determined for everything that I put out to be amazing. I was determined to help people. I was determined to make sure that other people didn't have to go through what I went through
Mm.
in order to reach their success.
All right. 10 years later. Oh, happy anniversary for your 10 years being out. By the
Oh
way.
yeah, this is my 10th year. July 10th, 2024 will be exactly 10 years since the day I was released. So yeah, that's a blessing to be sitting here talking to you 10 years later. Um, having been released in 2014, July 10th, and never having went back in, and having the opportunity to provide jobs and employment and avenues of income for other people is a blessing, and I aspire to keep going higher and doing more. Like that's what it is for me.
All right. After doing 10 years, does all that time still affect you in any way?
Yeah, well, I think after doing so much time, it'll affect a lot of people, but you just have to like be strong mentally, but yeah, right now I still suffer from PTSD, you know, post traumatic stress disorder,
Yeah.
PTSD. So yeah, I do. And I think a lot of guys that come home, whether they want to admit it or not, yeah, we all go through that. And this is 10 years later and I still go through it. So yeah, you know, that's the thing because you can't be locked up in an environment like that and have like an animalistic type mentality for so long and then come home and think you're going to be normal. It just doesn't work like that.
So you're definitely saying PTSD is real for people that's going through prison.
Yes, PTSD is beyond real, especially for people that have come out of prison, because you see so much while you're in there and you experience so much and you have to endure so much and encounter so much that when you do that for such a long period of time where it becomes normal, how do you reverse that? How do you turn that around and act like you didn't see that? You didn't hear that? You didn't feel that? You didn't experience that? That's hard. That's like very hard. So that's why a lot of guys go through PTSD for so long, so long. Even when people think it's over, it's just not over because every time I close my eyes, I still see that stuff. No matter what pill I take or who I talk to, I still see it when I close my eyes.
Have you ever like actually Googled like the percentages of PTSD for people that's come out of prison?
No, I never did that, right? And I think that's something everybody needs to do so they can understand that PTSD is real and address it because it needs to be dealt with. You know, it's a real thing and it's very, very, very serious. The government needs to take PTSD as far as formerly incarcerated inmates a lot more serious.
Mm. Do you have any advice for inmates that's been released and are now dealing with PTSD?
Talk. Inmates that are dealing with PTSD, PTSD,
PTSD.
all right, um, that have just been released, talk to somebody, man. Like you need to let those feelings out and find people who have been through what you have been through that are successfully overcoming it, right? And talk to them. And it's not easy to find those type of people, but once again, a Second You Foundation. Just holler at a Second You Foundation, and all of us, every single person in the Second You Foundation has been through or traveled the road that you're walking on before you.
Okay. All right. I think that's good for today. Do you have any last words for our listeners to keep them like determined and focused?
Yeah, I want to say, like my mother told me, tough times don't last, but tough people do. So, like, you need to remember, like, tough times are going to come, sometimes back to back to back to back, but we got to keep pushing. We got to keep pushing, believe in yourself, lean on your village. If you don't have a village, find one, a positive village, a strong village, a reassuring village, a spiritual village, and allow that to propel you or help you get to the apex. Period.
Now, that's beautiful, man. Thank you. Thank you. Like, share, subscribe. Power Prison Podcast. Be coming back to you next week. Thank you.